This morning, I was trying to get to work, but my daughter had all kinds of problems that I had to help her with. Problem. I get to work, I've got my problems. I couldn't find parking. There's something I'm trying to do, and then I get in, I talk to my team. They've got problems, and it's sort of like, how come problems just seem to continue to expand? Okay, and the root cause of this is that we are actually biologically engineered to focus on problems. It's simple fight or flight, monkey brain kind of stuff. Like look for the problem and then, fight or flight. Today I want to take a step back and sort of look at what does the empirical evidence suggest is the solution for this, biological engineering that we have, and how do we sort of cultivate that to increase, all the data suggests it increases health, success, wealth, longevity, all these things. My name is Walker Diable. I'm the Wall Street Journal bestselling author of Buy Then Build and creator of the Acquisition Lab. Listen, in the lab, we've got about 600 searchers, okay? People looking for a business to find a business to acquire. And I see it all the time where, businesses are tough. The small business landscape is full of a lot of hairy situations. It's opaque, it's fragmented, it's tough to navigate. And it's hard to find that deal that you think you're going to find in a month, and all of a sudden, it's taking months, and it's like, okay, where's my deal? How come this one that I thought was good now looks bad? How come, I'm looking at all of these businesses and I can't find a good one, or whatever it might be. And what you see is that people start to sort of expect that the business is not going to be good anymore, right? And so we'd had a meeting this Tuesday with a searcher, and he did something very, very interesting. The business had been on the market for a long time. Let's just say it was like, 12 to 18 months, right? And so the seller had sort of understood like, okay, maybe the broker is asking too much. Maybe there's all this, but the business was trending down for a few years in a row, okay? What happened was that, some buyers came to the table, nothing quite closed. The seller was sort of ready. This potential buyer in the lab, figured out that the seller had actually during COVID pulled out and moved to Florida, and no one was actually manning the shop, so to speak. And not only that, but he there was all kinds of issues with, there was hair on it, right? And so he said, okay, look, this has been on market for a while. I'm just going to try it, right? I'm going to come up with a solution to this problem of like, I can't figure out what's going on here. No one has any good data, and the owner is like left. And so what he said was, look, let me work in the business for a month under the guise that I'm going to make a decision, but like I need to understand what's going on here. And so we'll sort of consider it like preliminary due diligence or whatever. He gets in, he figures out that they're buying super lazily. They're being lazy in how they're buying their goods, and as a result, they're overpaying. They're also being lazy in how they're selling their goods, and so they've gone from a 50% gross margin down to a really narrow gross margin because they're just being lazy. And he sort of figured out and concluded that the seller was kind of just running the business until it was going to go away, or try to sell it in the meantime or whatever. And so motivated seller, I guess, not really any skin in the game at this point. He's fully paid out. It's sort of on autopilot. No one's doing any work really. No one's leading it. So he found this, and then he also discovered that their number one largest margin product had been discontinued for no other reason than no one was paying attention to it. So because of the downward trend, and because of all these other things, and because he figured out that the seller wanted to sell the real estate as well, he said, look, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give you, it was less than a 1 times earnings. He said, I'm gonna give you like a 0.7 times earnings, cash at closing. I'm going to buy all the real estate cash at closing, so this is what the seller want. And all of the inventory, I'm just going to buy it on consignment, okay? And so it turns pretty quickly, so you'll get paid out, fairly quickly. So basically, he's getting the whole business almost for like a fraction of 1 year of earnings on the business. And the reason why is because he took the time to figure out the solution to what the problem was, which is like, I can't tell what's going on here, but it's interesting enough for me to spend time, something that no one else was going to do. In probably 2010, I met a doctor named Jason Selk, okay? And Jason Selk wrote a book called Executive Toughness. And the concept that he sort of came out of this book was what he calls relentless solution focus. Okay, Dr. Selk was basically the director of mental training for the St. Louis Cardinals for like 6 years and helped lead them to like 2 different World Series. I'm only saying that because this isn't a proper business video without a sports analogy. But the thing was he used this relentless solution focus, okay, or RSF, okay. I won't write it out. Relentless solution focus, for being relentless and being focused on the solution to the problem at hand, okay? What does this mean? Okay, Dr. Selk's theory goes like this. Number 1, mental toughness is the mind's ability to focus on solutions, especially in the face of adversity, okay? But it's normal to be mentally weak, okay? So the thing is that everyone can learn to be mentally tough. You just have to adopt this, relentless solution focus in your approach to life, okay? I'm gonna kind of marry it with the growth mindset. I talk a lot about Carol Dweck and, Marty Seligman and all the things in positive psychology in terms of mindset. I feel like relentless solution focus is really an approach. I don't know that Dr. Selk would agree with this, but I feel like it's an approach to the world and the business that you're working on. And I've done this numerous times. So, and then the third is that, mental toughness is measurable, right? So he's done all kinds of research on this, and there's significant improvements in health, happiness, and success. If you have an RSF mindset, you actually live 14 years longer, okay, than normal people, okay? If you are a business leader, the entire organization increases in health, happiness, and success, okay? Shortly after I met Jason Selk, I was running my book printing company at that time. It was a disaster of a landscape. The global economy was in shambles. Amazon was coming out with the Kindle. Apple was coming out with the iPads. Bookstores were going out of business. Newspapers were going out of business. There was all kinds of challenges in the industry. I had to lay off. I think it was about 10% of my workforce and furlough another 15 to 20, maybe everybody, whatever. But the point is the landscape was terrible. Everyone's mind was in the gutter, right? And it was, well, that means something else, I think. But everyone was focused on problems because, this expectancy theory was like everything was a disaster. And so what you focus on expands. When you focus on problems, it expands. And I had to lead my team to success the best that I could, right? And, always I remember the conversations in the conference room would always turn to, yeah, but we can't do that because of this. Yeah, but we can't do that because of this. And the thing is that like, I didn't know it at the time because I was meeting Jason Selk right after this happened. But I was like, sure, okay, but what is like the one thing that we can do differently to change the outcome of what we want to do, right? So one thing I always say in the lab is, what needs to be true in order for me to take the next step? That's what I always ask whenever I'm looking at a deal, all the other things. The foundational function of RSF as an approach is basically asking yourself, what is the one thing I can do differently that could make this better, okay? And you need to focus on improvement, not perfecting, okay? If you focus on perfecting, you're never going to get anything done, but you don't need a complete resolution just to do one thing a little bit better, okay? The searcher just said, okay, well, the only way I can solve this problem is if you're going to let me spend time in there. This seller was open to it because it had been on the market long enough, right? And now he's got this like sweetheart deal with this great growth opportunity. What's the relentless mean? Relentless. Okay, so it means always do it. Always, because your brain is biologically going to go to the problems, okay? So not only do you need to do it, but he says within 60 seconds, okay, you need to switch your brain from, okay, I'm receiving a problem, okay, I'm going to get down, I'm going to, I'm going to have imposter syndrome or whatever. No, you got to switch it to, okay, what's the one thing I can do to make this better, okay? And by doing that in the first 60 seconds, you actually increase the expectancy theory. You start to focus on, okay, I can begin to make progress on this situation, and by being relentless, you're also implementing this approach with your mind, knowing that you can solve this problem. Okay. The mere identification of a potential solution increases optimism, okay? And it increases the cycle of thought away from the problems that we fight and more towards optimism, okay? So take this relentless solution focus into your life and figure out what problem do you have right now? What thing can you address this to that you're facing right now in order to increase your success at work, in your search, in your investments, whatever it is, in your relationships, whatever it is that you're working on, okay? Listen, if you are looking for a business to acquire, okay, you might need a solution because this is a hard problem. The landscape is fragmented. It's opaque. You're trying to make one of the most important decisions of your life, probably in your living room or on, God forbid, on Twitter. Okay, so I started the Acquisition Lab in 2019, ultimately to build the world-class organization around helping entrepreneurs find small businesses to buy. I've been doing this it'll actually be 20 years this May that I started my first search back in 2004. So, it anchors in world-class education. We take the diamond method to advisory to help you get a full approach from a number of different people that have done this multiple times on the deal you're looking at and get you unstuck in your search through your acquisition. Tools, resources, supplier network, and also, most importantly, the vetted community. We keep the riffraff out, and we will see you on the inside. Thanks so much.